In this video, I'm going to be brutally ranking designer fragrance companies from D scale all the way up to S scale on a tier list. Basically, I'm going to go through all of their category of releases and say if they are trash or if they're actually good designer fragrance companies. I'm sure people are going to get their feelings hurt in this video, so if I offend you, I'm deeply, deeply sorry for you. I cannot afford to pay for your therapy, so please, if this upsets you, I mean, just stick around. We're just having some fun here. It's just smelly water, okay? Don't be so offended. So I'm gonna be referring to my iPad. That's where my tier list maker is. So it looks like the first company that we're gonna be dealing with here is Prada. Now, my opinion on Prada, they have some very, very solid, iconic releases, but they don't have any that really pushes me into the amazing, I've just blown my mind territory. They have Prada L'Homme, they have Prada Ocean, Prada Carbon lines. There are some genuinely good fragrances in Prada, but I am not fully blown away by the company personally. I'm sorry if that offends you. Genuinely though, I think that this is not more than, I'm gonna say an A tier. Now, if I have to change my mind by the end of this video, I will try to reorganize things at the end, but so far, I'm thinking Prada is only A tier for me. It could definitely be pushed into S tier if they make some more daring or bolder releases, but as of right now, I'm just, you know, like, they have great fragrances, but just nothing amazing. So the next one, Emporio Armani. So let's talk about this because they have many different fragrance lines with different kind of side, I don't know what you would call them, companies, I guess. Armani has Acqua di Gio, it has the Stronger with You line, it has Armani Code, it has so many different iconic lines, and it has absolutely broken through some of the most popular lists. There is an Armani line for everyone. I'm not even kidding. Like, if you're sweeter and you like sweeter fragrances, you can go to the Stronger with You line. If you like more daily type of wear fragrances, you can go to Armani Code. If you like to be the dealer that deals drugs in Miami, you can go with Acqua di Gio. There's something for everyone, and they've absolutely reinvented men's fragrances as we know it. I think that Emporio Armani, I'm sorry to say, but I genuinely think that this is an S tier rating just for how much iconic status they have throughout the entire fragrance industry. Now we're going on to Lacoste. Okay, so Lacoste, genuinely speaking here, there is not any type of fragrance I am blown away from. I like some of their fragrances, like Lacoste Blanc L1212, I think is a very, very good fragrance. It's just not amazing. And that's why I have to say Lacoste for me is a C tier brand just for fragrances. I love some of their clothes. Okay, so now we're on to Issey Miyake. Issey Miyake, L'Audace line, Pour Homme, honestly iconic in the 90s. It is a little bit aged and they're not keeping up with the times. I absolutely do love the Pour Homme Issey Miyake L'Audace line. I love L'Audace Intense, L'Audace Sport. I have some of their best fragrances in my collection. I just don't think that they're keeping up with the times. They're not modernizing at all. They do have a good line, a solid base, but they need to push boundaries a little bit more if they want to go more than a B tier for me. The fragrances that I have smelt from them, iconic. But again, they can do better and they're not trying. That's kind of where I'm at with them. Now, Bulgari. Okay, so we have Bulgari Pour Homme, we have Bulgari Man in Black, we have Aqua line, their Bulgari Aqua line. They have some iconic fragrances as well. This is a company that takes more than one approach. They have Bulgari Man, which is kind of their dressed up, kind of classy line. They have their Bulgari Aqua line, which is more kind of aquatic, kind of daily summer wear. Like Aqua Amara is absolutely one of the best fragrances in their lineup, but Bulgari Pour Homme, it's kind of like a woody type, kind of musky, citrusy fragrance. All signature scent stuff, very classy of a brand, but nothing amazing. So that's why I'm saying, like, if something is going to be S tier, it has to be on my list at least a couple fragrances that are at least 9s or higher. So I think Bulgari is great, but it doesn't push it into S tier for me, and that's why I'm going to say that this is an A tier brand, okay? Valentino. My problem with Valentino is they have some absolute bangers. Their Born in Roma series is pretty popular. Like, they were able to take what kind of the men's trend of fragrances are, making something sweet, a little bit like a generically smelling good, and then kind of succeeding on that and just selling a ton of flankers. They also have their Uomo series, which is kind of like, you know, who's ripping off who. Like, it's kind of like Dior Homme kind of style, powdery iris meets, you know, other popular stuff. So I do think that there are good fragrances in the Valentino lineup. However, if I was to look at the whole of Born in Roma, I think that most of them, in my opinion, are misses. I do love Coral Fantasy. I think Born in Roma Intense is just okay, borderlining good. I love Coral Fantasy because it pushes the boundaries of the born in Roma DNA. I think that they're okay, but again, nothing more than, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off here, and I am so sorry, B tier. Nautica. Okay, so Nautica, I'm gonna honestly just place at D tier. The reason is because most of their fragrances are not pushing any boundaries. They're not making me feel special. Nautica Voyage is a great fragrance, but it's the only one of their brand that I would say is enough to compel me to buy. Like the other ones, I could be okay with not having in my 300 plus bottle collection. I would be totally fine, but Nautica Voyage, it just does it. It just works, but that's not enough to push it up the tier list from a D. So most of their fragrances are just kind of synthetically cheap smelling, with Nautica Voyage kind of being an icon in the game at this space, an icon in the game. So that's why I'm saying it's D tier. Azzaro. Okay, Azzaro, honestly, one of my most favorite fragrances of all time is Azzaro, the Most Wanted Parfum. I hype that up to death, honestly. Like, I'm sure people are sick and tired of hearing me speaking about Azzaro, the Most Wanted Parfum. You also have Azzaro, the Most Wanted Intense, Wanted by Night. Their whole lines are very, very good. Azzaro Pour Homme line is very iconic. I have a couple of those fragrances as well. However, I will say that only one of them pushes through the 9 territories for me. Azzaro, the Most Wanted Intense is kind of like a Stronger With You DNA, so I feel like it lacks kind of creativity there. Their Azzaro Pour Homme line is good, but it's not amazing, and it's kind of old school. It's kind of drawn out at this point, right? They also have Azzaro Chrome line, which I think is honestly iconic. Azzaro Chrome is absolutely iconic. They have something in that line for everyone. Our Azzaro Chrome Extreme is amazing. They have, you know, a lot of very good fragrances in that line. I think that they do have something for everyone, but it's not going to be 10s for anyone, in my opinion. I think that what they do well is making something for everyone, but they're kind of like the master of all, master of none type of brand. They just like, they're focusing in 10 different directions at once. So it's very hard for them to compete. But I think Azzaro, for what they've done in the fragrance industry, for having some very iconic scents, I'm gonna have to say A tier, with potential for S tier. But they just need to push some boundaries a little bit. So now we're on to Paco Rabanne. Look, this is where I'm gonna lose a lot of people. I think that Paco Rabanne, what Rabanne has done in the fragrance space has revolutionized men's fragrances. Just like Jean-Paul Gaultier, but we will get there eventually. They're losing a little bit of points here because they're only focusing on a specific man. It's a younger man trying to get attention type of brand, but they do that incredibly well. Now, I know some of the older gentlemen in Fragcom just absolutely hate on the Paco Rabanne fragrances because they were told to, or because someone told them that you're a 50-year-old man, you shouldn't be wearing a clubbing scent anymore. But let's be honest, all of their fragrances have sex appeal. They're very attractive. They're very good for dates. They get positive attention. It's made for that type of man. They do it very, very well. But that being said, I do think that they could try to focus a little bit more on making something for everyone, in a sense of they don't need to go the sweet direction with all their fragrances. I think that that's what they're trying to do with their new Rabanne Million Gold. It kind of seems like they're just trying to modernize it a little bit and kind of escape out of that sweet DNA. I do think that what they do well, like with Invictus line as well, like they capitalize on that bubblegummy sweet DNA. So they do that incredibly well. It's attention grabbers, something that people are going to go out and feel a confidence boost from. One thing I do like about the brand is that they're able to capitalize on bottle design, which represents them as a fashion brand very, very well. However, I do think that they're not like amazing. I don't find any of the brands other than like maybe 1 million where I have 1 million Lucky. I don't find they're pushing the 9s for me, or like even past 8.5s. So Paco Rabanne, I'm going to have to place, it's so iconic. The original 1 million, Invictus, like they set a trend for men's fragrances. I think I'm gonna have to go A. I really do, like honestly. And okay, so now we're on to one that's probably going to upset people, but I really want you to hear me out. So now we're on to Chanel, okay? My problem with the brand is that basically 90% of their men's releases are flankers. Like they found 2 successful DNAs and just went with it like flanker. EDP, Parfum, like it's getting kind of boring and stale if you want to hear like the honest truth. I also think that Bleu de Chanel in itself is slightly overrated. It's kind of just a little bit generic. It's kind of like, it's a very good fragrance, don't get me wrong, but I think at this point in 2024, you really need to start pushing boundaries a little bit more. Perfumery is changing. People are looking for more sweet fragrances. That's why I think the Allure Homme Sport line with Allure Homme Sport Eau Extrême is kind of modernized a little bit better than Bleu Bleu de Chanel. Like, I feel like Bleu de Chanel, it just works, and that's why people love it so much. It's not like an amazing scent profile that's gonna blow people's minds, but the perfumery is done very well. It's very classy. It's a signature scent. You only need one and you can just wear that. It's fine, but it's kind of getting boring. Like, I don't reach for Bleu de Chanel ever. But you know, like, I just think that they need to start pushing boundaries, and they have to come up with a new line. They have to maybe modernize an older line like the Egoist line. They could do something more modern with that. However, I think that they are just falling behind in terms of modernity. Like, they have to keep up with the new trends or they're gonna be lost. I'm just being honest here, you know, like, they will. Give them time. So I think that they are iconic, but they need to do something more in the men's fragrance spaces to go from A tier to S tier, in my opinion. I know that people are going to be annoyed with what I'm saying about this brand. Take a chill pill, relax, just kind of think about what I have to say about that. Now, Christian Dior, they have incredible lines. They have the Sauvage line, which is incredibly iconic. They have the Homme line, Dior Homme Parfum, intense. The Dior Sauvage line is absolutely iconic. Hate it or love it, but it has a lot of character. And I think that honestly, they have tried different things across their entire portfolio and they've all been hits. I'm sorry to say, like, they try something daring, it's a hit. You know, they want to modernize their fragrances. They will completely shift a DNA to modernize it, and they keep up with the times this way. I think that Dior as a house has more hits than misses. It's a hate or love company. A lot of people just like to hate on the Sauvage line. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off, but I think that the Sauvage line has more character than the generic smelling Bleu de Chanel. So I think because they have something for everyone, because they've tried something more bold and daring, they really like to try new things and see if that works, and if it does, they go with flankers. The flanker thing is a little bit annoying. It's getting stale. However, I do think that they are S tier. Oh my goodness, Chad Secrets put Dior over Chanel? Oh, I can see the comments already, but just hear what I have to say. They have so many different lines and they're all iconic, you know? Like, Chanel is just kind of sticking to what works. I don't like that, you know? Okay, Coach. Coach for Men is a good fragrance, not a great fragrance, and that's my favorite one from the brand. I think that they are C tier. They're mostly generic, they're mostly synthetic, they don't smell like they're pushing any boundaries, they're not really trying to. They're mostly cheap, affordable fragrances, and what they do it well, but not great or even amazing. So C tier is good for me. Now, Davidoff. Okay, I don't even really know why I included that. Davidoff in itself, Davidoff Cool Water was absolutely iconic. If you even look at Davidoff, the same perfumer made Green Irish Tweed and it smells identical. Iconic, but they're falling behind in the times. They're not keeping up with the modern trends. They're not really trying anymore. I mean, Davidoff Cool Water Intense, a good fragrance, very highly synthetic, nothing groundbreaking or unique. You know, they have Davidoff Cool Water was iconic. Davidoff Hot Water was just okay. Their kind of venture outside of the cool water. I think that they are a C tier because they do have some hits, they have some iconic fragrances. It's like they need to try harder, in my opinion. Okay, so Diesel I'm gonna place at D tier. The reason is because I've never felt compelled by any of their fragrances, really. I've only tried some from Chad from A Gentleman's Journey's fragrances, and like, they're not bad. I don't think that they're good enough for me to ever want to buy any. So for that, I'm sticking with D tier. Now, okay, so now we're on to Dolce & Gabbana. They have their light blue line, they have their Pour Homme line, they have their K line. They have their iconic The One line, which is, I mean, I get flack for ever hating on the longevity of that fragrance. So although it smells amazing, it pushed boundaries and it worked. Kudos, you know? I think that they have great fragrances, but nothing amazing in my opinion. One thing that I've not liked about Dolce & Gabbana fragrances in general is their longevity and kind of performance is not the best with any of their lines. They are iconic. There are some amazing fragrances. They have something sweet. They have something bold. They have something, you know, signature scent worthy for everyone. I just don't think that they're amazing, and that's why I'm going to go B tier. So Gucci, they've tried to push boundaries many times. Gucci Guilty Absolute is honestly a very bold and daring fragrance that smells 10 times more expensive than it is. Gucci Guilty in itself, I don't really like. I never really was a huge fan of. I have it in my collection. I've never reached for it once. Gucci Guilty Elixir, very good, bold fragrance that I think that they did a great job on. However, it kind of smells like other things. So I think that this is a good brand. It's just not iconic. Like, they're not really doing anything iconic, and that's why I'm gonna have to say, I would say B tier for me. So Guess Seductive Homme. good fragrance, not a great fragrance, and that's my favorite one from the brand. The rest of them, I could pass on. I could honestly even pass on Guess Homme Seductive, even though I think it's a good fragrance. I just have so many other things in the price categories that beat them out. They're synthetic, they're cheap, they're very kind of poor in longevity and performance. They don't ever push boundaries. I think that Guess for me is C tier. Actually, I'm gonna go D tier. Good brand, you know, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm sorry. Like, I feel like I'm hurting people's feelings here. People are gonna be like, Chad's trying to get some attention with this video, but you know, I'm just having some fun, okay? Tumi. Keep this in mind when I say this. So Avant-Garde has sent me 1, 2, 3, 4 of their fragrances. And I've tried some other ones in their Tumi shops. Tumi is a luggage brand, if anyone didn't know. Their bottle design, iconic. I think that any designer fragrance company should capitalize on the looks of their bottles. It kind of, to me at least, signifies the looks of their brand. Are they trying to be more bold in the designer realm? Are they trying to just be generic? You can tell a lot by their bottle design. Tumi, iconic bottles. I think that's good, but their bottles aren't enough to save them. I think that what Tumi does wrong, in my opinion, is they're kind of like twists on popular DNAs for the majority of their fragrances I've smelled. 19 Degree, you could say, is kind of like in the style of Tuscan leather or ombre leather, where it's kind of like a fruity leather with some amber and a little bit of woods. You know, they've got Continuum, which actually I don't really know what to relate it to. You could say it smells like the one by Dolce & Gabbana. You know, they need to do their own thing. I think that they need to find their ground. They haven't figured out what they want to do with the brand. They're just kind of trying what's already worked and reselling it basically as a twist. So I think that this as a brand, I would say is, oh man, it's so hard here. Because I do like a lot of their fragrances. I love 19 Degree and I really like Continuum. Both of those are very good fragrances, but I have other fragrances that do it the same. So as of right now, I'm gonna go to C tier. Hugo Boss, okay. I know where people are gonna think I'm gonna put that. Some of my favorite fragrances I've ever smelt are from Hugo Boss, but those are only made within the last 3 years. Before 3 years ago, they didn't really have many hits. They had the original Boss Bottled, which was an absolute banger, which is still one of the most sold men's fragrances to this date. But other than that, they didn't really grab me until like 2-3 years ago. They have their Boss The Scent line, which I think is absolutely amazing. They have their Boss Bottled line. Hugo Boss Hugo Reversed, which kind of smells like other fragrances. Look, they have some very good fragrances. What they've done with the brand recently is they are trying to step up the game. They're seeing that a lot of designers are becoming kind of bland or generic, or they're not really trying. They're just kind of flankering things, not changing much. Oh, let's release a parfum version of an iconic fragrance and not change anything except 2-3% of oil concentration. No, they're trying new things and they're succeeding. Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir, banger. Hugo Boss The Scent Elixir, banger. Hugo Boss Bottled absolute banger. They're iconic at this point, but they need more time. I think in the next like 3 years, they could be S tier, but for me right now, they are only A tier with potential to move up to S tier. They are trying something new and they're not afraid to do it, and I can respect that, honestly. Hermes. Okay, we're on to Hermes. Terre de Hermes, iconic. The parfum version of that, iconic. Eau Givrée, iconic. But they don't have anything that blows me away. They have their Un Jardin series, which is like their citrusy, musky, fresh fragrances or floral approaches or whatever. I think that Hermes, although they have pretty much all their fragrances are hits, they just don't have anything that blows me away. Their Terre de Hermes line is iconic, but don't get me wrong. I think that they can try a little bit harder. I think that they are, oh man, like, man, people are gonna really not agree with me here, but B tier. No, you know what? I disagree. A tier with potential of going to B tier if they don't step up their game, or potential of remaining in A tier. I don't see them going to S tier for me. That was a close one, guys. I almost upset a lot of people. Calvin Klein, CK1 Shock, CK1 All. They have some very good fragrances, but not amazing fragrances. Kind of cheaply made, like bad performance, not really lasting long, but some iconic stuff. CK1 Shock is one of my favorite cheapy winter fragrances of all time. It deserves all the hype that it's gotten. But again, they're not pushing much boundaries and they're not really wanting to, just like their clothing brands. So I think that the CK Calvin Klein as a whole is C tier for me. Givenchy Pie, my dad's signature scent. Givenchy Pour Homme, which was also tied as his signature scent for a while. Iconic. Honestly, I have to remind myself of all these releases of these brands, like crazy. The Gentleman line, the Society line, like they have some amazingly classy fragrances that are super well done. There's a lot of good fragrances in their lineup, but to me, I think that they're kind of doing the same thing, like, you know, the whole flanker route, which is fine, but it gets a little bit boring. Like, I need to see them step outside the box, step outside of their comfort zone, try something new, try to release a more iconic scent that kind of other brands are going to be like, dang, we need one of those in our line, you know, something like that. I think that Givenchy is B tier. Givenchy for me has the potential to move up to A tier for me. Louis Vuitton. I'm going to disappoint a lot of people with what I have to say because a lot of their fragrances have become hype beasts in this moment. I've tried Imagination, I've tried Ombre Nomad, I've tried Pacific Chill. I was at La Ventura Mall in Florida. I went to the Louis Vuitton boutique. I tried pretty much all of their fragrances. Nothing really grabbed me. Like, I was just not kind of impressed by a lot of their fragrances. Imagination, I thought smelled so cheap. And then like you get like a $400 price tag from that. I haven't found one fragrance that I felt like I needed to have in my collection from them. Even if the price tag was half that, if the price tag was $200, I still probably wouldn't buy them. All their fragrances I smell like a clone brand could just make their fragrances very easily. Like, let's put it that way. All their fragrances I've smelt are just mediocre with an insane markup of their price tag. I gotta say, honestly, C tier for me. I'm sorry. They do smell good. Their price tags are absolutely ridiculous and they're not really pushing boundaries by any means. Ombre Nomad is the only fragrance from their entire collection that I think if I find a good price on, I might get. And that's just a might. Maison Margiela. Yes, they are designers. Yes, I know. By the Fireplace, we got Jazz Club, two very iconic fragrances. We have Beach Walk, we have, we got Coffee Break, we got Lazy Sunday Morning. So basically what they do is they have a replica line that tries to replicate familiar times and places and put them into a bottle. I think that what they do there is very iconic. It's something that no other designer brand has really done. I think that they do this amazingly. I think that that has a lot of potential. I think it's very creative. In my opinion, they have potential. They have potential to go up to A tier, but for me, they're just kind of B tier because I've only found like maybe 2 or 3 fragrances from them, although they do smell accurate to what the names are, that I would actually want to wear. Jazz Club and By the Fireplace. Missoni. Okay, kind of a clone house, in my opinion. Yeah, they're basically a clone house, you know? So that's why I'm gonna have to say Missoni, although I love Missoni Wave, I love Missoni, Missoni Pour Homme smells like Bleu de Chanel. Missoni Wave smells like Chanel Allure Homme Sport. They don't really have their own kind of DNA. They don't really have their own unique style, nothing. It's just kind of copying what works, right? And because of that, I'm gonna have to say that Missoni is a C tier designer fragrance brand. So now we're on to Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc basically capitalized on the Abercrombie and Fitch Fierce DNA. They made Mont Blanc Legend line, which is kind of a very popular fragrance line that did what worked from Abercrombie and Fitch's Fierce, and they capitalized on that. They kind of swagger jacked them in a sense. They made Legend Spirit, which is kind of like an Invictus style of that. You know, they have Legend Blue, which actually I got recently and really like. Their fragrances are good, but they're not amazing for me. I think that they're nothing more than a C tier brand. Yeah. C tier. Okay, Moschino, I'm gonna say is a C tier. The only reason is because I love Toy Poi, but that's not enough for them to just, you know, progress past these other banger houses. Like, they need to create some other bangers. They need to create some other very iconic fragrances that people can love and enjoy, right? But they're not. And I haven't really smelt much from that brand, which, you know, other than Toy Boy, which I love. So that also is contributing to the C tier rating. Jean Varvatos, iconic. They have collaborations with Nick Jonas that are actually really good. They have Artisan Pure, Artisan Blue. Their Artisan line in general is very, very good, fresh, clean fragrances for a businessman, you know, trying to smell fresh and clean. That's pretty much what they do. But their longevity and performance is not too good. I don't think that their fragrances, you know, their fragrances do smell high quality for what they are. In fact, they have Dark Rebel, Rebel Rider, some very polarizing scent profiles where they tried, but they're not really doing that much anymore. I think that they're a good brand, but I don't think that they're more than a B tier, at least for me. They do have potential to move up to A tier. Ralph Lauren's Polo. Polo Blue, very good kind of generic style, like whole line of fragrances. I never found myself in any Polo fragrances until I found Polo Gold Blend, which is very like, almost like Acqua di Gio Profumo style, where it's a very peppery vibe and some aquatic kind of fruity nature in the bottom, musky. Signature scent, very classy, very masculine. I love that one. I didn't find myself. Now they made Polo 67. It may just be my favorite out of the Polo line. That kind of shows my age. I know, I'm sorry. I've tried a lot of their fragrances. I just never find myself in their brand. And because of that, I'm gonna have to say that they are B tier. They have potential. No, I don't think that they're ever going to make anything too out of the box. I think that they'll always remain B tier for me. Salvatore Ferragamo. They have some hits. F Black, right? I think is iconic at this point. They have their Uomo Signature series, right? Sorry, they have Uomo Signature. They have the Uomo, the tiramisu fragrance, right? Acqua Essentiali line. They're pretty good. They're just not amazing. I think that they are C tier. But I've smelt some very good fragrances. That's why it pushes out of the D tier category for me. Tom Ford, without a doubt, S tier. Reason being, although their fragrances are expensive, they're always trying to push boundaries. They will never stay generic. Their fragrances are high quality. Their presentations look premium. They are in a category above designer fragrances. If I blind smelt all their fragrances, I would think that they're niche. They smell high quality, they're more daring, they're more bold. They're for a unique type of person, and they have some iconic fragrances. Noir line, amazing, right? Costa Azura line, amazing. Ombre leather, amazing. Amazing iconic fragrances that push men's fragrance boundaries as we know it. And then a lot of brands are like, please, Tom Ford, I want to copy you. I want to copy you, Tom Ford. You know, like iconic, always pushing boundaries and putting very high quality scent profiles into their fragrances, but charging a expensive price tag. Very iconic, S tier, no doubt, okay? Versace, I love you, Versace, I love you. They've released some iconic fragrances. Eros. You could say that was a trendsetter in the men's fragrance niches, right? You could say Dylan Blue is kind of taking a modern DNA type of blue type of fragrance, but giving it a lot more appeal with that kind of incensey vibe through it. I love Dylan Blue. I recommend Dylan Blue to all my friends. Versace L'Homme, not really. Versace Mano Fresh, good smelling, high heat fragrance. You know, they have Versace Pour Homme. They have something in there for everyone. That's what I love about their line. They have some attention grabbers. They have some daily drivers. They have some high heat fragrances. They have a professional fragrance like Versace Pour Homme. I think that they are absolutely an amazing brand. I love their versatility. I think that they've made some iconic fragrances that people love to hate on. Wait, I just realized I don't have Jean-Paul Gaultier. But I think that Versace, the thing that they've done wrong is they don't really try to step outside the box at all. Like like even Versace Eros Energy recently, it's kind of like a Aventus Absolu. Like what is that? Like I'm kind of concerned for the future of the Versace fragrances because I really liked how they made different lines and do something for everyone, right? But now it's kind of like, oh, this worked, let me have that. I don't like that at all. That's what they did with Versace Pour Homme, kind of taking Chanel Allure Homme Sport. I think that Versace is a tier brand. Shit, no, I would say they're B tier. B tier brand, yep, B tier. Okay, Victor and Rolf, their Spice Bomb series, absolutely iconic. They don't have any misses. However, they need to step outside of the Spice Bomb and try something new, in my opinion. Like the whole Spice Bomb DNA in itself works, but flanker after flanker after flanker after flank, like they need something new. Although the Spice Bomb DNA works in their iconic Spice Bomb EDT is one of my favorite men's fragrances ever. I love the Extreme. Those are 9s out of 10s for me, but it's not enough. They need more. They need something else. They're missing something. They have potential for S tier. For me, A tier. Yves Saint Laurent, oh my goodness. Okay, so we have La Nuit de l'Homme. We have YSLY, iconic fragrances there. They have their L'Homme line. They have their Kuros line. They have, oh, the Myself line, okay? Myself, hate it or love it, pulls compliments. Exactly what they designed it for, it works for that. It's a chart topper. I kind of hated on it when it came out just because I didn't think they were doing anything new, but I think that it is an absolute chart topper, and because of that, you know, I think that it's going to be considered a modern iconic fragrance in a couple years. Their L'Homme, their YSL, like a La Nuit de l'Homme is very, very good, but I think that they are A tier with S tier potential. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna take a break. I need to add Jean-Paul Gaultier. Okay, we saved the video, guys. I'm sure I'm missing something else, but I had to add Jean-Paul Gaultier. Jean-Paul Gaultier, Le Mal, I think reinvented and at least changed the direction for men's fragrances as we know it, okay? I really, really like what they did. I think that was an incredibly iconic fragrance. They made Le Mal Elixir, they have Ultra Male, they have their Le Beau line. I think that there's very, very good fragrances, but it's built for a specific person that wants attention, just like Paco Rabanne. Ultra Male. Hate it or love it is an absolute compliment beast. Le Mal Elixir, a statement, you know. Le Beau, one of the best summertime fragrances for me. But again, I think that they only found something that works and they're sticking to it, flanker after flanker after flanker. They do try new things, they have some special releases, but I think that they are not more than A tier for me. I'm gonna mix in some car brands here. Jaguar, I think from what I've smelt is a D tier brand. I'm sorry. but I haven't really found myself in any of their fragrances. They all smell very cheap. They really hurt my nose with the alcohol blast I get from them, and they could do something better. I think that they could try a little bit harder. Mercedes-Benz, some very affordable fragrances where they hire actual perfumers to make iconic fragrances. Mercedes-Benz Club Black, amazing. Mercedes-Benz Select Night was like kind of like a Tom Ford style noir extremes type of fragrance. They have Bright, Mercedes-Benz Man Bright, which is kind of like, you could say, Bleu de Chanel. I think that they're good. They just need to find a footing. They need to find their footing. Like, they're kind of just trying what works, which is okay, you know, but I think that they are nothing more than B tier. And Bentley for Men Intense, Bentley for Men, very good fragrances. They have Silver Lake. They have some iconic fragrances that literally smell 10 times more expensive than they are. I think that is also, for me, a B tier brand. This is gonna be one of my longest videos I've ever made. Literally went into a majority of designer fragrances. I think that I covered pretty much every company here. If I missed some, I know I did. I could not include everything here, or this would be a 2-hour video. So please give me a thumbs up. Tell me in the comments, do you disagree with me? Because I guarantee someone will. This list is not a staple. Do not take this as a guide, you know, like, don't take this, just take this as me having a little bit of fun, giving my opinions on these fragrance brands and letting you know my thoughts on these companies, okay? If you want to use this tier list for yourself, if you want to do this video and tag me in it, I would absolutely love that. Whoever's watching this from Fragcom, make this video and use the link in my description where I actually link this tier list. Anyone can use it. They can have some fun with it. I'll link it for everyone to use. It's open source and free. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me reviewing some of the most popular men's designer fragrances of all time and seeing if they're actually worth the hype, click this video right here.